Welcome to the video. Welcome to the podcast. You guys are in for a real treat. This is an audio and a video podcast. I'm putting this up on my social media. And if you're tuning into the episode here on the podcast on Everforward Radio, you're getting the full thing. So if you like what you see here on Instagram TV, you can always follow me at Chase_Chewning. If you're watching the IGTV, you already are, or else you wouldn't be here. But to all my podcast listeners out there, that's me. If I'm not on the airwaves here, not on podcast land, then I'm over on IG land. So at Chase_Chewning is where you're going to find this IGTV. It's going to be a snippet. It's going to be a preview. So if you like this and you're curious to learn more about my journey to cannabis, using recreational drugs, THC, marijuana, CBD, all that stuff, then you got to tune in to the podcast. All right. You can go ahead and I'll make sure to put it down in the notes underneath the IGTV. But here we are on Everforward Radio. Welcome.
3, 2, 1.
All right. So that being said, I've been thinking about doing this episode for a long time. I actually posted up about it on my stories on Instagram several weeks ago and got an overwhelming response, overwhelming request for, yes, we would like to learn more about this. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I have this office chair that I'm about to throw through the freaking window. It is so squeaky. So squeaky. Drives me nuts. But we have a new one en route coming soon. So I'm going to try not to move. Okay. I'm going to stay very still, very, very still. Now, marijuana, cannabis, THC, CBD. I never touched any of it until I was about 28 years old, 27, 28. And before we get to my first experience, that was horrible, by the way, a friend of mine, you know who you are, it was like his mission. I was with some friends. We were down on like a spring break trip down in Florida, and he uses very regularly. And it was his mission this trip. He's like, Chase, I'm going to get you. You're going to use it. We're going to chill. We're going to get you high. It was like his mission, man. And I love the guy to death, but I was just like, nah, it's just not me. Don't really care. So before I get into my first experience of why it was so bad and why after that first time, I didn't try anything again for years later, I just had a horrible, horrible experience. And I just assumed that that's what it was all the time. I was like, why do people like this? It's terrible. But before we get to that first time and to why now I use it pretty much every day, well, most days of the week, I use versions of, I use CBD, THC-free items, 0% THC, marijuana, cannabis, and various applications, and why. We're going to get there later. All right. So if you're tuning into the video and you want to learn why now I use it so frequently, in my kind of transformation, my revelation over the years and my journey with myself, then you got to tune into the podcast. Okay. So for everyone listening, you're going to get the full story. But let's go all the way back to the beginning. And I think for a lot of people, at least when I talk to them about why they have never used drugs or we're talking about marijuana here. It all kind of really goes back to a belief system. It was, it's against my religion, or my parents would kill me, or it's just not how I was raised. And I totally respect that. I think a lot of people that bodes well. How you were raised, nature, nurture, environment, it molds us, right? It molds us into who we are and kind of our initial thought processes around right, wrong, good, evil, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what are temptations, what's going to get us into heaven, what's going to, have us burning in hell, a lot of those things. And that was absolutely what it was for me. It was less of my own ability to formulate an opinion or have an experience or do my due diligence, research it, look up, studies or talk to people or just explore it, go through that experimentation with it. I never did, because from a very, very young age, it was always drilled in me because of where I grew up, because of how I grew up. And by no means, I'll preface this by saying, by no means am I bashing my parents. I was raised a lot by predominantly my dad, my stepmom, and my grandparents. My mom, here and there. My parents split when I was very young, and a lot of it had to kind of do with this duality of belief systems of super religious or not. And I'll preface this by saying I'm not casting blame to anyone. I am not saying a parent or a family member did me wrong or steered me in the wrong direction or the right direction. I'm just stating the facts of my journey. And so my belief system growing up it was just something that you didn't do. We grew up Southern Baptist. I was baptized Episcopalian. My father was Catholic. The rest of my family were pretty devout Catholics, I guess, or that was their religion. And we went through a couple, series of denominations growing up, but wound up really looking and landing on Southern Baptist for the majority of my childhood. And good old fashioned Bible Belt. Growing up in Southwest Virginia, go to church every Sunday. I went to a private Christian school from about 7th grade all the way through the 12th grade. And that was just my world. That was my ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, that type of behavior, there's that squeaky chair. That type of activity was wrong. It was wrong, and it was not going to be tolerated, and it was not going to be stood for. And anybody that did it, you were not allowed to hang out with, was the quote wrong crowd. They were a bunch of no good potheads, high all the time, no ambition, no job, no money, and losers, basically. Also, losers that are going to burn in hell. And it was very much that kind of mentality with me for a long time of don't do it. It was very, 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 very little education around it, which is a whole other tangent I could go on really anything that we look at as right or wrong, or was passed down to us from our family and our upbringing as right or wrong. Well, is it just right or wrong because you told me, or is it right or wrong because of exhibits A through G? Maybe I'm just kind of getting ahead of myself in my kind of scientific approach to a lot of things, to trying nutrition and diets and supplements and just things in life. How do we know? Like, how do we trust this source, really? And when you're growing up, you really have no other source than your parent or parents. You trust them because they're your parent, right? And you always believe that they have your best interest at heart. And I absolutely did and still do. I had a great relationship with my parents growing up, my dad, my stepmom, my grandparents, my mom. And it was never it never even crossed my mind to rebel. And anybody who knows me, that's just kind of my character in general. I love rules. I follow the rules. Why I did so well in the military, I think. And I'm just kind of one of those people, one of those guys that you tell me, hey, here are the lanes. Here's where we kind of stay in between those lanes. I'm like, cool, I'll do my thing, stay in the lane. And, but it was always really, really scoffed at and looked down upon. And again, it was just evil, bad, but never really an explanation why. There was never really any education. The only education I got on it in school, while I was in a public school before I went to private, it was just always the negative side effects of drugs. Hey, if you smoke pot, you will kill your brain cells. You will drop out of school, never get into college, never get a good job. And it was only painting this thing in a negative light. So if you grow up for the first 18 years of your life, only being taught, only being shown that this thing or these things are bad, and any interaction, any association with them are also bad. And it only leads to bad things. It leads to bad thoughts. It leads to bad job, bad life, bad relationships, bad health. And you're not really presented with any other alternative. Well, you're kind of left with just believing that, right? And so I did. Now, I will caveat this by saying that my dad growing up was a he was a devout man, devout Christian, very godly man, but he was real, right? He wasn't like this, uptight Bible thumper. But he was a very, very big guy in the community. He was very loved, very respected, and just a great guy, a very giving guy. He was a veteran himself, was in the Army. And as I began to kind of come to age, he got very real with me, early teenage, especially once I began to kind of express interest in maybe going into the military myself. My father began to pour out to me in ways that I never heard before. I kind of heard some things here and there, about his past before he had kids, even a little bit during while he had kids, and kind of the struggles that him and my mom had, my birth mom, that kind of ultimately led to their divorce. He told me a lot of stories, a lot of stories about that past life, about his experiences with drugs and alcohol and various substances, him, his friends, his brother, my uncle, and just kind of that whole life back in the, 70s, 80s. And he was always like, Chase, you know what? If you want, we'll go get some weed. We'll smoke. If you want to see what getting drunk is like, we'll get drunk. He's like, if you want to know, like, let's do it. I would love to do that with you if you want. He wasn't like encouraging it, but he began to kind of just very slowly introduce alternatives, which at that point, it was more of just like, I had already grown to know, like, and trust and love this man. And I appreciated then how he was presenting these things that I didn't even really care. And also he did that because the job specifically I was looking at in the military and this new career path I was going down as a young 17, 18-year-old kid, I'm pretty sure he was testing me to kind of be like, hey, get this stuff out of your system now, because once you go in with Uncle Sam, that shit's not going to fly. And I grew up in a Christian school. Nobody there did, at least not that I was aware of. Looking back on it, definitely some people were smoking pot and definitely getting drunk every once in a while. But it just never crossed my mind. And then again, in the military, we would get your analysis test all the time. And my job was the highest level of security clearance that you could get. And it was just not tolerated. Again, it was just something that was not in my environment. It was something that was not tolerated. And it went beyond at that point, hey, this, if you smoke a joint, you're going to go to hell. It went to, hey, if you smoke a joint, you're going to get kicked out of the military. And that had a lot of shame, which I think a lot of people can relate to when it comes to drugs, when it comes to marijuana in particular, what we're talking about here. There's a lot of shame around it. There's a lot of one-way information, lack of sharing all the information, and a lot of shame. And so I didn't want to get kicked out of the military. I, again, had this picture painted in my head that if I ever did pick up marijuana, I would become an addict. I would get kicked out. I would lose my job. I would have all these negative things. And so that was my world. That was my belief system. It was a lot to do with how I was raised. Had a lot to do with religion. Had a lot to do with my entire nature and nurture for the first 18 years of my life, all the way leading up to about 27, 28. And so here, if you're on the video, here's about where we're going to cut off. All right. Cause you got to tune into the podcast here for the full story. So there I was. And actually I'm going to take a sip of my iced coffee here. And you're going to be hearing me talk about a lot of products throughout this, because actually a lot of these products and companies that you have heard me talk about play an integral role into how I began to use cannabis on a regular basis now. So right now I'm sipping on an iced coffee, strong coffee. It is their midnight oil, which is infused with CBD, which I also have here. If you're on the video, I have my CBD from Cured Nutrition, the tincture, as well as one of my favorite other supplements from Cured Nutrition, their Rise Nootropic. All of these have CBD in them. And I really accredit, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, I accredit the education and movement of CBD over the last 2-3 years to my understanding and my education and my redevelopment of my own as a human being, my Chase Chewning, my belief system on marijuana and cannabis. And actually, do I have it here in my desk? No, I'll have to grab it out of my backpack. I also have my vape pen. So there I was. We're now getting into the portion of the story of my very first time ever smoking pot. And I had a horrible experience. Miserable. I wanted to die. I was vomiting. I was dehydrated. I was drunk. I was all of these things. And right then and there, I decided never again. This is horrible. Why would anybody do this? It's terrible. And so I was down in Florida with all of my best friends, really good friends of mine. You know who you are. And We had been day drinking all day. It was under the sun. I've been out on the beach. I was just really dehydrated, had a nice little day buzz going on. We hopped in the hot tub and my buddy passed me a joint. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Fine. Let me figure it out. Let me test it out. And everyone was like freaking out. They're like, oh, this military guy, Chase never does anything wrong. He's like, he's going to smoke pot. I was like, yeah, sure. So I did. Took a couple of hits and didn't really feel anything, I thought. So we go back upstairs to the room and he had brought some brownies, some pot brownies. And they were really, really good brownies, which is a great trap, by the way, because people just keep wanting to eat them. And so I did. I had, I think, 2 edibles, 2 brownies. And again, I thought that I didn't really feel anything. I was like, I think I do. I don't know. Maybe I'm still just kind of drunk. And then this is where it really took a turn for the worst. That same friend of mine, who was a very, very big, we'll say, marijuana connoisseur, THC connoisseur, he brought out his oil dab, which is this insane apparatus of like this kind of like bong device, this glass apparatus device with water and a thing at the top, and you put pure THC concentrate, like this sticky resin, and then like this blowtorch. It's this crazy thing. It looks like something out of Breaking Bad. And I took a hit. I think it might have taken 2. I don't know, definitely 1. And that thing sent me to another dimension. And I hated every second of it. I became dizzy. I definitely got the body high, the mental high. I was sent to another freaking planet, man. I began to experience things I had never had in my entire life. I was about 28 years old. And then all of a sudden I just got what the kids call twisted. I had been out in the sun all day. I hadn't really eaten a lot. I was drunk. And I'd done all the things, right? I got sick. I got nauseous. I threw up. And we had dinner plans. I went out with my buddies. And I was trapped in my head. I was that guy, that paranoid guy. I was stuck in my head. I couldn't talk. It was all I could do to barely move, to like pick up my feet and walk right. I had to be pretty much escorted by my friends. And we went out to eat, which was a horrible idea, by the way, a horrible idea. And I just sat there and in my head, I was screaming. I was like, oh God, this is terrible. Get me out of here. Like I thought I was going to throw up. I wanted to go home. I wanted to pass out. And after that, I wrote it off again. I was like, oh my God, Mom and Dad, you're right. Uncle Sam, you're right. Jesus, you're right. Everybody, you're right. This is horrible. Why would anybody want to do this? And so then years passed, several more years passed. And as the people around me, I began to deepen my relationships with them. And this is another little pro tip I'll say when it comes to using, especially, again, talking strictly about marijuana, cannabis here, but also a lot of things, a lot of, supplements and just really anything in life. If you can, I won't say perfect, but if you can stack the conditions in your favor, like my homie Sean Stevenson always says, a more positive, more fulfilling, more loving, just more in your favor environment, like a place that you're familiar with or a place where you just feel good and comfortable with good people that you trust, that you love, that you respect, but trust being a good one. As those began to deepen for me, my friendships, the next time I ever tried marijuana, I was on this cabin trip with some people. Try to keep everybody out of here that doesn't want to be mentioned. And they pass around a little bowl. They had like a small little bowl and put a little in, puff, puff, pass kind of thing. And I was just having the best time. We were just in the mountains. We were in the mountains in North Carolina. It was just me and my friends, and I was having a great time. And I was then paying very closely to the reaction that they were having. And I was like, I like that. You look very relaxed, very cool, calm, and collected. We're chilling out. That's the whole point of this trip. Cool, let me dive in. So I did. And man, I loved it. I loved it. It was that good body high, a little bit of that head high. It was just everything that I was looking for to enhance that mood, that situation. I was cool. I was chilling. I got the munchies, had some incredible ice cream, didn't get sick, didn't get twisted, none of that. And so for that moment right there, that was a big turning point for me of, oh, it doesn't all have to suck. It's not all dying in the bathroom floor, trapped in your head and getting twisted. Um, so I took note of, okay, intention going in. What am I feeling right now? Let me do again biofeedback. A lot of things I talk about on the show, checking in with yourself head to toe. How am I thinking? How am I feeling? How did I sleep? What's my hydration? What's the last meal I had? Which is where am I? Who am I here today? And if I'm comfortable with that, and I got a good sense of kind of quantitative identification, cool. I'm willing to take on something else. I'm willing to introduce something else into my body, into my mind, because I'm comfortable with the level of everything else right now. That's biofeedback number one. And then I saw how it affected everybody else, and I liked the outcome. So biofeedback was good, environment was great, and then effect was great. I didn't see anybody getting messed up how I was before. And then that for me was a turning point. And then I won't say I didn't turn into, a pothead by any means, and then I kind of like, it would just be special occasions. It would be, 2-3 times a year, really, tops. And again, it was always a bowl. I think over maybe 2 years later, that's when it became decriminalized and legalized in certain states, and edibles and things. And like all the science came out behind it. And it no longer was this behind this veil of if you do this, you will go to hell. Jesus will hate you. You'll lose your job, lose your health. Your family and parents and friends will disown you. You could say the same thing about anything. You could say that about becoming too obsessed with your health, too obsessed with bodybuilding, too obsessed with competing, too obsessed with anything that can divide you and your friends and your family and your environment. Like that can be said about any quote healthy thing or quote unhealthy thing. But then I was like, wow. And this plays a big role for me personally. If you're like me, of you follow the rules. Well, then now all of a sudden, the rules were becoming totally different. Well, okay, so before it was wrong and it's illegal. Now it's not wrong, not illegal. Huh. So if I'm having these good experiences thus far, I'm learning how to use it, when to use it, with whom. And also now it's not illegal. That was a huge other red flag for me to dive deeper into it. And especially when I moved to California 2 years ago. This was late 2018. California at that point had become one of the states where it became legal. I now, and when I moved here, I can it's like walking into the Apple store, walking into a convenience store. I can walk into my preferred dispensary is MedMen. It's extremely bright, extremely safe, extremely clean. The people are extremely well educated, know exactly how to guide you. Like, how are you feeling today? What do you want to feel? What are you looking for? What's your experience? Just warm and welcoming, and just presenting all the facts, which is like the main driving force here. Before so long, for so many, I'm sure, of you listening, watching, you probably haven't been presented with all the facts. You've been presented with one person or person's side of the story. And so about that time is also when I began to learn about, begin to use, but also learn and self-educate with this stuff right here, CBD. It was summer of 2018 that I met the co-founder and owner of Cure Nutrition, a CBD wellness, natural wellness and adaptogen company. Shout out Joe, who is now an incredible friend, really good friend of mine. And I love being a part of the Cure Nutrition family. Just the movement and education they are doing is unprecedented. And I was like, wow. So like there's this whole other version of this healthy version that comes from the same plant. Like that's blowing my mind. And okay, now health coach Chase ears are perked up. Scientific Chase's ears are perked up. Someone who's always looking to better themselves and their personal wellness and nutrition, and just, take an inventory of all the things and how we can be better and move forward, right? Ever forward. I trusted and respected the hell out of this man. This guy is, Joe, you're a genius, man. He literally used to be a rocket scientist. He was an aeronautical space engineer, left that industry for CBD, left that industry for the movement, left that industry for the poor and misinformation around this plant that literally saved his life. Someone who battled depression and anxiety, crippling depression and anxiety for years, tried to commit suicide. This stuff literally saved his life by literally walking him off the ledge, by calming his anxiety, helping with his depression. And he decided to make a business out of it. And not only a business, but an educational platform. And I always look for that. Whenever I'm looking to try a new product or a service, and at that time, recommend things to my coaching clients, my friends, my family, and still do. That's a huge, criteria for anybody that I especially work with when I talk about products and sponsors here in the show, like Strong Coffee Company and their CBD infused midnight oil, which is insane, by the way, like Cure Nutrition and their tinctures, like Cure Nutrition and their Rise, and like the Doses pens that I use. That they're not a sponsor. I would love for them to be. All these companies and all these people came out that I respected, that I knew were well educated, that I knew had good intentions, and they were presenting these facts and studies. And I was like, okay, cool. I trust that. So let me be a study of one. Again, something I talk about all the time here on the show. I was like, well, let me learn more, and then let me try, and let me be my own sample size, and let me see what's going on. This stuff was incredible. I began to play around with CBD and use it I was training at the time for a very long endurance event. I was training for the Baton Death March. It's this marathon ruck march in the White Sands Desert in New Mexico. And I was, rucking with, 25, 35 pounds on my back, walking 5, 8, 12, 13 miles up to that point. And I really was looking to it for its recovery purposes, for just general recovery, physical recovery, sleep enhancement, muscle recovery. And it was a game changer. And then I began to study and learn more about the endocannabinoid system, how this product, the cannabis plant, beyond just what we may be using for recreational purposes, there's a medicinal approach to this. This stuff, we have a system in our body, the endocannabinoid system, that only, of what we know of it so far, only responds to this plant. It is a lock and key system. It is just this head to toe in every organ system we have, head to toe. There are these keyholes that only CBD, that only this plant can unlock. Hello, people. Hello. What does that tell you? It's good. It's, do your due diligence, do your homework, practice, consult with your physician, consult with your health coach. But look, there's a system in every one of our bodies that is just waiting to be used to have CBD, to have this cannabis plant tap into and relieve pain, discomfort, skin disease, recovery, sleep health. I know so many people that have tried nearly every other pharmaceutical prescription out there for certain things, like a lot of topical ailments, joint pain, arthritis, cancers, skin rashes, diseases that do nothing except for give them new problems due to side effects. But when they try CBD in various applications, topical, tincture, pill, ointment, salve, whatever, saving lives, giving people a sense of purpose back, a comfort level to go back out into public, to have the ability to play with their children, to get finally good sleep. I couldn't ignore the science anymore. I could not ignore the science anymore. And now 2019, once I really began to pay attention to my body and how, when I would use CBD, how it made me feel, of my nutrition, of my training, of how when I began to use recreational marijuana more. And I found for me, it was always intention and environment. And I can proudly say that I use cannabis now damn near every day. I would say 4 to 5 days a week, whether it's through CBD, whether it's through Cure Nutrition's tinctures, their Rise supplements, or any other supplement that they have, their Zen, they're at nighttime, which I use all the time for sleep, whether it's in Strong Coffee, whether that's in their salve. Last year when I was recovering from my torn rotator cuff, I was in a sling for weeks in excruciating pain. And as I began to rehab that and get back into training, that Max salve, that CBD salve, was a game changer for me. I have a grandmother, my grandmother-in-law, suffers from crippling arthritis and pain in her elbows. Got her some CBD salve, no pain, no problem. And so I just really do think that it's high time in 2020 and beyond. We are better than relying on the belief systems of our forefathers. We are better. We owe it to ourselves for growth as a species, for growth as a human being, for growth of our human potential, of our wellness, of our physical, personal, spiritual, professional potential, to really take inventory of what we do and what we don't do in our life, of what we believe and maybe what we want to question. Do I believe that, or was it just because someone told me? And that's exactly what it was for me in cannabis and in marijuana. And so once I began to do that, man, I can tell you this has been the best and most relieving stress reliever of my life over the last 2 years, as I have become just extremely more busy as an entrepreneur, as a husband, and surviving out here in LA. Very few things can help calm me, can help center me, can help bring me, kind of just bring me back to life and separate from the busyness of the day and of the grind as marijuana. I use a couple of the other products I talk about. I'm not sponsored by this company at all. This is just my personal use and application. Again, whatever you want to try, it's totally up to you. If it's legal in your state or if it's not, that's totally your decision. Take inventory of your body, consult with a physician, talk with somebody about it first, of course. I began to use edibles. I would love edibles. A nice little blend of a CBD THC ratio or a THC blend of indica and sativa. Again, walk in like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm looking for. And the people at MedMen were just incredible. Dosist is the company that I use and recommend. I'm going to grab a pen real quick. This chair, I cannot get rid of the chair fast enough. So I'm going to show you here or talk about on the podcast. This pen right here, this is the Calm by Dosist. And this is Bliss THC Plus by Dosist. I have another one that's called Relax. But again, intention. This company intentionally put the intention on their product. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out. Calm, this is a 9-to-1, I believe. 9-to-1 CBD to THC ratio. So it's a vape pen. It actually has an interchangeable head here. I can just pop it off. Predominantly CBD, but a little bit of THC. This Calm pen by Dosist has given me some of my most productive days over the last 2 years. It has calmed me. It has given me focus. When I want to sit down and just do my most intentional work, when I got a lot of things to do and I'm getting anxious and stressed out about it, this stuff right here. One to two pulls of this. Oh, God, I feel it already. Bye-bye stress, bye-bye anxiety, and hello productivity, hello performance, hello quality of life again. Now, I'm not going to take another hit of this one. This is their Bliss. This is their THC Plus. This is the fun one, all right? This is fun. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong. Again, that was another thing. Like, you're not allowed to use cannabis. You're not allowed to use it to have fun. Like, why can't we have fun? Again, if we're in a safe environment, if we are tuning into our bodies, we're aware of our current health situation. Again, I guess I'll make the disclaimer, if it's legal, whatever. This stuff, why can't we have fun? I work my ass off, and I know you do too. I know that anyone listening to this podcast, you live a life ever forward. And that means devoting yourself to a higher standard. That means devoting yourself to your community, to your relationships, to your significant others, to your pets, to your family, to everyone. Because you believe in moving forward. You believe in doing more and giving more because you believe you are capable of more. And that comes with a lot of work. That comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. A lot of times stress is good. It helps push us more. It's a catalyst. But man, we got to have fun, people. We got to come back down sometimes. And this stuff, screw it. This is a lot of fun. And this is a great interrupter. And where I'll kind of begin to wrap things up here is that if you are someone beyond just struggling with a belief system, beyond struggling with what's right and wrong, do yourself a favor, do your homework. What do you want? What do you believe? If you're someone who, like I was and sometimes still am, when I began to explore using recreationally cannabis, I was having a hard time separating the stressors from life. It was always up here in my head. It was go, 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 think, 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 do, do, do. And look, I'm a certified health coach. My entire life and world is around health and wellness and balance, right? Quote, balance. And it's very, very difficult, especially when you're hungry for more, when you're owning your own business or even a working professional. It's very, very hard. It's one of those easier said than done things, right? And sometimes, and I would recommend this to a lot of my clients back in my health coaching practice, a lot of times I will recommend and I will personally use something, a hard pattern disruptor, a hard interrupter to the day, something that you know will disrupt that kind of routine, that rut, that thought process, that current state of mind, because you, for whatever reason, cannot do it on your own. So for me, when I get to that point, and I'm like, all right, Chase, you've been working 14 hours today. You haven't taken a day off in 6 weeks. Force yourself. And so what I do is I love, that Calm pen. Or what I'll do is if I want to go watch a comedy, go to a movie, or go on a walk, I'll pop an edible. I'll use this Bliss pen. And, I really am grateful because I personally, again, this is Health Coach Chase coming out. I personally believe that if we go all the time, I know we'll be aging ourselves faster. Chronic stress is something that always catches up with you, increases inflammation, breaks apart relationships, builds up resentment. It is not something you want to keep doing. And so we need stress management. We need happiness. We need fulfillment. We need not answers to all of our questions in life, but we need the ability to know how to go about the pursuit of those answers. We need to know how to go about exploring life. And that is what I'm really trying to drive home here, and how I'll wrap up that for so long, especially when it comes to cannabis, marijuana, pots, I did not explore it. And I was only believing in other people's belief systems. And I still hold true to many of those belief systems because I love how I was brought up. I think we would hope that all of our parents did the best what they could with what they had. But, now I'm about to be 35 years old. At this time this is coming out, let me look at my calendar here real quick. This episode is actually going live. The weekend you're listening to this right now, I am on a plane. I'm heading out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, to celebrate my 35th birthday. I'll be there with my wife, my loving, amazing, beautiful wife, and a handful of our closest friends. And let me just say, I'll be having a lot of fun out there too. It'll be, I'll probably have my doses pens with me, but I'm really going to be going on a nature trip, if you know what I mean. And that's really it. That's what I'll wrap up here. And I'll put out here on the record publicly. My name is Chase Chewning. I host this podcast. I am a certified health coach, Army veteran, husband, brother, son, entrepreneur, community member. A lot of things that I do and associate my identity to. I will now also say associating myself to an identity of full-fledged, full-blown, proud cannabis supporter, CBD supporter. I love it. It has helped me so much. And more importantly, it is not for just what the product itself does, but it has helped open up my eyes to other areas in my life that I was still holding limiting beliefs, that I was just doing or not doing based on how I was raised, how I was brought up, and not allowing myself the full ability to explore. Do I believe that? Do I want it or do I don't? Do I don't? Do I not? I'm mixing up my words. Yeah, also I mixed up these pens, and so one's meant to cool you down, one other one's meant to get you hype. So yeah, we'll wrap it up here. But this episode is not meant to, I'm not an authority on this at all. I am a health and wellness professional. Like I said, still a certified health coach. I went to school for it. I've been in the industry now for about a decade. And the only thing I'm trying to say is just be a study of one. Life is an experiment. We are the ever-changing variable. And there are a lot of other variables in life to this. So that's where I stand on cannabis. Again, thank you to companies like Strong Coffee Company and Cure Nutrition and Dosist for being leaders, for being great business models, for being, community leaders and educators, and helping us truly get back connected to nature and just so much of what it has to offer through natural, whole food source, plant medicine, nutrition. And again, if any of this stuff you guys want to try out, I will link it all in the show notes. Dosis is not a sponsor by any means. I would love to, but Cured Nutrition and Strong Coffee Company are. I will link them down in the show notes. You can try their Midnight Oil. It's a limited release. It's actually going away very, very soon. So I would recommend trying it if you want. It's an incredible hot or iced instant coffee, instant espresso actually, infused with CBD. You can use code Chase actually at checkout for, you get 15% off. StrongCoffeeCompany.com, code Chase for 15% off. And then Cured Nutrition, I use their extra strength raw CBD full spectrum hemp oil tincture pretty much every day. When I'm getting super anxious or very stressed out, I'll do a drop under the tongue as a secondary one, pretty much always taking one drop under the tongue a day, typically at night for kind of the sleep aid. This is their Rise. This is their mushroom and medicinal mushroom, functional mushroom, and CBD infused nootropic. This is a caffeine-free stimulant, basically. So if you really want to just focus and work hard and not feel jittery or crash or just get an all-natural focus supplement, improves memory, cognition, all that stuff, this is their Rise. You can go to curednutrition.com and use checkout code EverForward to save 15% as well. So it's code EverForward at curednutrition.com for 15% off and code CHASE at strongcoffeecompany.com for 15% off as well. Now, there are actually two different links for Strong. I'll put them below. They have their main company website. And then if you want the Midnight Oil I'm talking about infused with CBD, that's on a separate website. You know what? For those of you who don't always go to the show notes, let me go to the internet right now. I believe the other one for Midnight Oil is strongcoffeecoltd.com. Let me double check here. No. Strong Coffee. If you made it to this far out of the podcast, you're a trooper, because I'm definitely high right now. Yeah, that bliss kicked in. All right, so if you want the CBD strong coffee, it is strongcoffeeltd.com. That's strongcoffeeltd.com for Midnight Oil. It's got L-theanine, macadamia nut oil, real coffee, and CBD. So I'll put all that again, like in the show notes, like I said. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I hope you guys do too. And I hope that this message has helped you live a life ever forward. One more for the road. All right, let's do the fun one. All right, that's a wrap. For more information on everything you just heard, make sure to check this episode's show notes or head to everforwardradio.com.